Hey, before we get started, I wanted to apologize for the poor audio quality on my end of this conversation. I kind of screwed it up. But you're here to listen to Jimmy talk anyways, not me. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Woodworking Talk Show. If you're new here and thinking about starting a woodworking hobby but feel a little overwhelmed, I want you to check out my step-by-step approach to getting started. Even if you've never touched a power tool in your life, hey Jimmy, you've probably touched a few power tools in your life, haven't you?
A few. Inappropriately.
And by touch power tools, I mean, well, using tools to build things, really. But if you want to do more than just touch power tools, I'll show you how you can build your first project this weekend. You don't need a lot of space or a lot of money to get started. In fact, I'll show you how you can get all the tools you need for less than $1,000. Head over to mytoollist.com and download your free guide today. Jimmy DiResta has been a staple in the YouTube maker community for the past decade, working with all kinds of materials, tools, and techniques, including woodworking, metalworking, leatherwork, and lately digital fabrication. His most popular videos involve weapons, knives, axes, but he also makes signs, furniture, tools, and well, just about anything else. One of my favorites actually was last year's jack-o'-lantern. It was probably like a throwaway project for you. You made these jack-o'-lanterns out of plastic, but to me it was really interesting to see how you shaped plastic.
Oh yeah, that actually
a mold.
That was like 6 or 7 years ago, but I might have reposted them last year because yeah, you know, I do a lot of private label videos, as you know, a lot of people know. I do videos for other channels, but my deal is always I get to repost it back on my channel after 12 months, and I never do. I always forget, and so when I have nothing to post, I'm like, what? I go through my unlisted videos, like, oh, I could put that one up. That no one's seen that one, so that's how that happens.
I thought it was really cool. You know, you don't see a lot of guys making things with plastic. Really, I thought it was really kind of an unusual.
Oh, thank you.
Thing.
That was fun.
Really cool.
That was a throwback to my toy business days because I spent, you know, from 90 to like 2008 or 10 making toy prototypes out of plastic most of the time. Occasionally to do quick breadboards, we'd use wood and hot glue just to get like an idea going. But then eventually it would have to mutate into plastic to try and mimic the manufactured process. So that's where all that technique comes from.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Jimmy's videos help to popularize the high-speed GoPro style of presenting content, and by not including any narration, his videos are accessible in any language, no auto captioning required. His most popular video, DiResta Winchester 1873, a very rare restoration, has 24 million views and shows how he brought a very rusty antique gun back to life. I think that restoration videos are just satisfying to watch. Did you have any idea that particular video was going to be so popular?
I had no idea. I almost didn't post it because it's not really, I'm not a restoration channel.
That's weird, isn't it?
I almost didn't post it.
Yeah, you could just never predict these things, I guess.
No. It was one of those like, oh, damn, I need a video this week. I haven't posted in a couple weeks. All I got to do is like, you know, buff and put lipstick on that rifle video and I could post that, you know. And that's really what it got down to because I had all the footage and I just was missing a few pieces and I'm like, all right, let me put that one out this weekend. And then had no idea it was going to be my most popular video.
Yeah, my most popular video is one, I did the same thing. It was just like a throwaway thing. I'm like, you just do this, put this nail through some wood, boil the water. And
I remember that one. I know that one. It comes
easy
up all
content.
time.
I feel like I don't even own that video anymore. It's just taken on a life of its own. It's just out there in the wilderness.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. My gun video gets re-sent to me all the time by people that find it on Facebook video, you know, re-edited with like Arabic across the front of it.
Right. Jimmy also teaches hands-on workshops from his ranch up in upstate New York, and he's probably the most well-branded maker on YouTube with an extensive shop selling DiResta merch. Everything from tools to signs to clothes to coffee and even soap with the DiResta stamp on it. Hey, Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Oh, I forgot we weren't interviewing. We were still in the intro.
I get a little crazy with my intros, I guess.
No, that's great. Thanks for having me. It's funny to hear all laid out.
Hey, you just got back from a trip, didn't you? You were in Wyoming?
We just went to Wyoming. We were in Grand Teton. We went to Jackson Hole, Teton, and unfortunately, with current events, it has a whole different meaning with what's going on right now. We were in Teton during, that couple had a fight. They were having the fight while we were there. Obviously, we didn't see them, but we passed through Grand Teton, up into Yellowstone, and then in Yellowstone, we went all the way up through Bozeman, Butte, Missoula, and then into Glacier National Park, and then drove across Montana, North Dakota, into Teddy Roosevelt Park, and then back to Chicago and New York. Yeah, 6,000 miles. We had a great time.
It's beautiful up in that part of the country, isn't it?
This is the first trip. A lot of people are like, is this your only vacation you've ever taken in your life? With Taylor, we've been together nearly 12 years. This is the first time we went on a trip solely just to go on a trip and not having to work our way to Maker Fair or work our way to, meet some maker to do a collab video or something. So it was the first time. And then I did not stop and see makers or anybody along the way because Taylor would have just waited in the car and I didn't want to do that to her. Yeah.
Wyoming is like the least populated state in the country.
Well,
it's crazy.
Wyoming was great, and then so is Montana. It's just unbelievable. It seems to be the place where old Chevy square body trucks go to die, and that's kind of my new passion. And I said to Taylor, I'm not even looking. I'm not going to look anymore. I said, I'll just wait till I'm alone. I'll come out here with like a fifth wheel trailer and find a perfect car and come home. But yeah.
Did you go out? Weren't you working on a trailer out there too, or was that not? That was a separate project.
I did, yeah. It's funny because I was talking about taking this trip, and then at the same time, I just posted a new trailer build video. They just coincidentally happened at the same time. I went out in an Oregon trailer, which is something I bought from the guys in Oregon Trailer. They're in Eugene, and we made friends on Instagram years ago. And their son, their little son, has been big inspired by my videos, and so we stayed in touch. We never met in person, but we're very close online friends, like we've all become. And a couple of years ago, they said, we want to make you a trailer, and so they gave me a considerable discount, if I would help them promote it. So that's what I did. And then finally, I was able to put all the money together and buy it from them when we were talking about doing this trip. So I was like, let's just pick up that trailer those guys built for us last year, because they said they'd hold it because they were using it as a sales sample. So they said, don't worry, whenever you're ready, it's here for you. So we picked that up, and at the same around April, May, I got a job to build a trailer for a wine company. And that's something I've never done before, is build a fully encapsulated, enclosed travel trailer that really works. The previous year, I made 50 of these displays, but they were all completely CNC plywood. They looked like teardrop trailers, but they were all just literally in-store displays. Eventually, they could have been made out of cardboard, but they hired me to make them out of plywood.
Right, and you made that from just basically the ground up. You had like a flatbed trailer, and you just built the whole thing on. Yeah, that's the most recent video. Yeah, at least as the time we're recording this, it's the most recent one. Mm-hmm. It looks like so they give you like a plan, kind of an outline of what they wanted it to look like, but it also looked like you were kind of winging it.
Yeah, well, what I've become good at, thankfully, is that, architects and engineers and designers, I mean, that trailer was designed by a graphic designer. Let's be real. He wasn't a real, travel trailer designer. They just sent me a side profile. I think they just looked up, the road restrictions of width and height and said, this will stay within that width and with height. And this looks cool. Graphically, it should be skinnier in the back. They wanted it to look a little kind of, mid-century modern, and with a couple of curves, the curves at the bottom and the curves at the top. And they're like, what do you think? I said, okay, cool. They sent me a down payment. I bought a trailer. I bought, $4,000 worth of materials and went to work. And I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing.
Do you find that with a lot of your projects? You just really go into it. You really don't have a clue what you're going to end up with.
I've developed this mantra where it's like, if I've done that, I can do this. And that really is how I approach mostly anything. And my thirst for materials and my own personal, trying to get out of my own boredom. When I took that travel trailer job, I'm like, it's something that Taylor's always said, let's build a trailer. And I'm always like, yeah, well, one day we'll do it. But when you're your own client, you break the rules and you just keep pushing the goal. But when you have a real client, you're like, oh shit, I got to stand and deliver. Okay, cool. Yeah, no problem. Oh, I'll have pictures for you soon. I'll have progress pictures for you. If it was for myself, I'd be like, I'll do that next year. Oh, let's do that next spring. Let's do that next spring. So when I saw this opportunity, I was like, let me get paid and learn how to make a travel trailer.
Bet your clients give you a lot of leeway though, because they pretty much know what they're getting into when they hire you to do a project. So.
Yeah, these guys have been great. You know, it's funny. People always wonder how I found these. These are the liquor business clients. They've been so good to me. They've been so good for me, and you know, a lot of content with them. The way I found them is funny because I started putting stuff on YouTube and through Make Magazine. I put stuff on. This is in 2013, 2012. I started putting stuff on Make Magazine, and they put on this competition. This liquor business, these liquor marketing guys wanted to put on a competition for Dickel whiskey called Raise the Bar. Some advertising guy came up with this idea of raise the bar. Oh, wouldn't it be fun if two guys literally built a bar, like raising the bar, meaning like, hey, let's up our game, but let's see two people build a bar, you know, so it's a double entendre. And so I'm fairly friendly with them now. I mean, they're like family, but at the time I didn't know them. They said, when we wanted to do this event, Raise the Bar, we just Googled who makes stuff and like make, because the word make was in their search. Make Magazine popped up. And so they wrote to Make Magazine. They're like, do you know anybody that could build something in front of an audience? And they forwarded me the email. They're like, you could answer this. You might know this. You might know somebody. So they forwarded the email to a few people, and I answered it. And it was CAA, Creative Art Agency. They were looking for somebody to build in front of an audience. And then hired me and some other guy that they got through the Make Magazine connection, whose name I can't remember because he really kind of fell right out of the maker scene right around that time. Older guy. And he did metal and I did wood. So the competition was me versus him, me making things out of wood and him making things out of metal. And that's how I developed a relationship with this marketing company. And like as soon as the show was over, we did that jam-packed weekend at a barbecue festival in Nashville, Tennessee. And as soon as the event was over, the marketing guys came over to me and they're like, hey, my name's Chuck. I threw this event. And Chuck is my guy. Chuck is the guy who hired me to do this trailer. So I've been working with Chuck literally ever since that moment. Chuck and his partner, Bobby, and a few of they have a lot of partners that come and go, marketing partners that work with different brands. And their biggest client is Bullet Bourbon. So a lot of people think I work directly with Bullet, but I work through these guys. They're like a subcontracting marketing firm that handles all of their in-store displays and all this stuff. You know, I'm one of a bunch of people they hire. I'm not the only person they hire to make weird shit. So, and that's how that's worked out.
I feel like Make Magazine is kind of falling apart.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, for a long time, probably a lot of people discovered you through the videos you were making at that period of time. I remember seeing them on Make, and sure. I think you single-handedly were keeping that channel alive. It's still around, but I don't think nobody really watches it anymore. It was pretty much the DiResta channel.
Well, for a minute there, and I was wanting to help them. I'm like, I have other, you know, they were so cheap, you know, but I guess it's a budgetary thing, obviously. When they were paying me, I think they paid me $1,200 a video. They're like, well, we never paid anybody this much. We just want you to know. I'm like, well, that's fine. I go, you know, my day rate as a carpenter, whatever designer, is $1,500 a day. So that's what I told them. I'm like, if you want to hire me to do something, the average is like $1,500. You know, I always tell everybody, like, how do I know what to charge? They're like, well, what's your day worth to you? You know, it's obviously flexible. If like the coolest person I ever wanted to work for came to me and said, we only have a budget of $200 a day, I'd be like, fine, no problem. You know, so my day rate is just a very, you know, a loosely calculated $1,500 a day. So when they said, how much do you want to charge us for, if we ordered 10 videos, I said, I'd charge you $1,500 per video because it's about a day and a half's worth of work. You know, if I do one of these, like a simple video, I have more what I call my epic videos, things that take a long time, like this travel trailer, which I've been working on for months. You know, I couldn't charge them $1,500 for that, but maybe I would if they bought a bunch of my old videos when we first got started. I had like 10 videos in the shoot. So they're like, what if we pay you half as much for those? And then going forward, we'll give you the $1,200 price going forward. And I said, sure. And then it got to a point where like, and I for lack of a better term, me making the videos became a little bit of a nuisance. I love them and I'm not shitting on them, but it became a little bit of a nuisance because I'm making a video for $10,000 for some advertiser. And then I got to like spend Sunday to make a video for them just to keep up with them. And then I was like, guys, I'm getting all these other offers for videos that I can earn a lot more money. And you're right in the middle of it. I want to keep working with you. What if we did this? And I can't even remember what the numbers were. Oh, they would like pay me like a month out. I was like, why don't you just pay me on time? That was my first offer. Pay me on time and I'll keep work and you know, get rid of the 30 days or whatever it was. And then, what do they call that? The terms, like we're in the garment business, like they had terms. I'm like, how about you just pay me the beginning of every month instead of me waiting to bill you and me waiting for you to write a check? Just put me on salary. That's what I said. I go, put me on salary. This way, the money's in the bank account every month. And they're like, yeah, we can't really do that. I'm like, all right, so then I'll go with your terms as is, but I need this much more money, which was only a few hundred more. And they're like, yeah, we can't really do that. And so then I never said I quit. I never said that. I just stopped making videos for them. And then like the month came around, they're like, so do you have a video for this weekend? I was like, no. They're like, why not? I was like,
remember that discussion we didn't have?
Remember that discussion that I wanted more money and you just said no? I just assumed you knew I wasn't going to make a video this week. And, but I love them. I don't mean to talk bad about them. They, and I'm not talking about, it's like the number crunchers guys there. Anybody who I was in touch with, any of the editors had no control over that. It was like they'd go back to the finance people and they'd be like, nope. They
did kind of the mistake of really putting all of their eggs in one DiResta basket. You look at their channel now and it's just a shell of what it once was. And then they also, they got into a lot of other things. They were doing, of course, the maker fairs, and I don't know if they're going to keep doing that or if those are done.
Well, what basically happened financially is like the entire house burned down, and the only thing that they saved was the foundation, the brand, the trademark. So Dale, from what little I know, going back a couple of years, when the financial company, whose name I don't remember, they were like their crutch. Some hedge fund came in and gave them a bunch of money, and then basically said, guys, we don't really understand how to make money with this maker movement, so we're going to back out. Thank you. Here's everything. You can have all your trademarks back. So the financial vacuum left them basically in ruins. And, I think they're still able to produce the magazine. But the maker fairs and all this, big back money stuff went away for now. And, who knows if they'll ever be able to build it back up. So they're not totally dead. The trademarks are still theirs. It's not, they think they still make a little bit of licensing money when someone does a mini maker fair. But the good thing is that because of the vacuum left by Maker Faire, me and Austin Handel, the guy who owns the Blackthorn Resort here in East Durham, New York, we're doing the Maker Camp. Now, this is the third one. First one was very big. The second one, COVID, just like 20 people came to Blacksmith for the weekend and it went away. And now this is the third one. And the hotel sold completely out. The campsites are mostly sold out. They have a sister hotel, which is sold out. And, as far as I could tell, we got people coming from all around the United States. Hopefully some people can get through the European border. I know a couple of people are going to try and break through the Canadian border. And it's going to be a real big event. And so what I'm thinking
describe what that is.
Yeah, the Maker Camp, I think, is going to be like, the big Northeast thing. Like for 8 or 9 years, how Maker Faire was the big Northeast one where everybody came to meet. Maker Camp is right here in my neighborhood in East Durham, New York. It's a very rural area. It's like kind of farming, mostly cows up here, not crops, but like most people keep cows for the milk business. And this particular area, Greene County, East Durham, was a resort area like that started in the 1920s. So you see all these like a big house and then like 10 huts around it. And those huts are all cabins you could rent. And so everybody like who had property that was once a farm, say in the 10s or the 20s, was like, you know what? I don't need cows anymore. I'll just put up 20 huts and then rent the huts. So a lot of the huts around here are very dilapidated because they were built 100 years ago, in the heyday of when the Catskills was the getaway. And now it's, obviously with airplanes and people going all around the world and making travel affordable, you make it easier. This place has gotten severely depressed in the last 25 years. I bought this house in 2004, and when I got here and I started asking people, I'm like, what are all these like resorts? Does anybody come here? They're like, nope, not really. Everything kind of died down in the 90s, and now because of COVID, people are buying property up here. So this place is starting to kick back into action. Long story short, so I met Austin, whose family owns a lot of property, including the Blackthorn Resort. And Austin's a young guy. And when he met me, he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, where, in East Durham? He goes, what are you doing here? I follow you on YouTube. What are you doing in East Durham? I go, I live here. I had never met him until I was full-time here. I wasn't always full-time. Only the last 5 years. And so anyway, he says to me, he goes, I've been thinking, we became friendly. He's like, I've been thinking about doing like a maker maker fair at the resort, my family resort. He says, if we do it together and you cajole all your friends and all the people that I'm fans of to come to this maker camp. We didn't have the Maker Camp name yet, which is obviously it's like a low-hanging fruit name. But at the time, we just kept calling it the Maker Fair, the Catskill Maker Fair. And then it formed into this Catskill Mountain Maker Camp. The family does, and they just did it this weekend, they do the Catskill Mountain Thunder, which is a huge motorcycle event. And in New York, every September, there's one down in Brooklyn and there's one up here. And this happens to be in this neighborhood. So they have experience managing with like thousands of people on a weekend. So the name was just the Catskill Mountain Thunder. So they did the Catskill Mountain Maker Camp. So it's kind of a brand that they rolled it into that. And it's kind of like a very free-form thing. It's not like when you go to Maker Fair where like everything's set up. There's the food carts are over there. And this is very free-form. In a lot of ways, people at the first one said it's kind of like Woodstock of makers because, you want to set up a table. You don't need to fill out an application. There's a picnic. You could have that picnic table over there, and then you set out, your blown glass. There's a tent only because the most popular stuff is the blacksmiths. So there's a huge tent in case it rains. Everybody can go in the blacksmith tent. There's a couple of tents. There's a couple of covered spaces too, but there's a tent for CNC. The blacksmithing tent. Year one, we had 25 anvils in it. And, 5 of those anvils were being run by pros, the Modern Maker Forge guys, which are like a Northeast group. And they made an anchor. So you could stand there and talk to them and say, like, how do you do it? Come here. I'm hitting it like this. Here, take the hammer. You hit it. You try it. So it's very hands-on. This year, I'm going to have one of my big bandsaws on a rolling trailer, and I'm going to bring my bandsaw, and I'm just going to do bandsaw carving. This year, for the first time, they have a chainsaw carver. A couple of months back, we did an event, just a weekend event, where we did post and beam, but we cut all the joinery on this post and beam frame that we're going to assemble during the Maker Camp. So that weekend was just cutting joinery. And then at Maker Camp, the same crew that helped cut all the joints are going to try and assemble this frame that we made. It'll be like a 15 by 18 foot little, they were joking saying they were going to maybe make it a blacksmith shop, a permanent blacksmith shop on site. But for now, it's just a frame. So it's just basically trading maker skills. There'll be leather worker there. I work with Weaver Leather. Weaver's going to send over a bunch of stuff for us to play with. And there's going to be a couple of leather instructors. And, it just keeps growing. I got a message this weekend from Shop.CNC. They're like, hey, it seems like it's gathering steam. Should we send 2 more people? I'm like, yeah, why not?
That sounds really cool. I think that was what... Last time I went to the Maker Faire Bay Area, I was really disappointed in it. It was like basically a software expo. I mean, it was really for them to make something meant to write code. And I thought, wow, I'm not seeing a guy. I didn't see a single guy with an anvil there. Right. Yeah. There wasn't any of that kind of stuff at all. And so I think this sounds pretty cool what you're doing.
Well, they had the guys from I can never remember the name. There's a blacksmithing group there, but they put them in a corral in the back because they create fire and danger. So they had them they took up 5 parking spots with a fence around them, and you couldn't go up and talk to them. I can't remember the name of that place, but it's a popular blacksmithing forging crew. They have a space in San Fran, but that's the difference between the Maker Fair event and the Catskill Mountain Maker thing. The Catskill Mountain Maker Camp is really just hands-on. There's going to be a couple of boat builders are going to be there, and just hanging out around the campfire and discussing. There's going to be camp, the first year there was a couple of campfires going. It's and the circle gets so big, somebody just starts another campfire. And then you're sitting next to a boat builder discussing joinery. And then you're sitting next to, and then everybody's drinking all night long because their room's right there. So they'll just they crawl.
You're going to have your smoker up there?
My smoker will be there, the one that I built, of course. And then we're trying to find a big one because now this guy, Will Shear, who's a good buddy of mine, Will was my consult when I was making the smoker, the small one. He's like, hey, I want to cook for 200 people. He goes, let's try and get a couple of smokers. So he wants to do do a class if you want to learn how to smoke meat. He's going to be there all weekend working the smoker. So we have a couple of guys that are going to lend us big smokers.
So on YouTube, if you do DiResta and then see what the autocomplete is, the smoker right now is the #1 autocomplete response there. So I don't know what it is. People are really interested in your smoker right now.
That's good. It's about to hit 1 million, I noticed the other day. I can always tell, and Steve, you know this as a lifelong YouTuber, you get in moments where you're like, oh, okay, this is it. It's over. This is it.
Yeah.
I guess this is it. I got to go get a job.
This is it. Yeah, I get that every week. Every time I post one of these videos, I get that feeling. Oh God.
Same with me.
Nobody's watching.
No one's. That's it. Okay, I guess I got to. I got to start making bandsaw letters again, whatever it is. But so I haven't been paying close attention to the algorithm because I just think it's fading. So I don't want to see bad news. But once in a while, and it's been happening this last couple of weeks, I start seeing a lot of comments pop up on old videos, and somebody's talking about the smoker because it keeps popping up like on my phone. It's like, hey, really great mechanism. Oh, that's too small to be a real smoker. And I just see it on my phone. I don't have every message. I don't know how YouTube's got it so that I get like 1 out of every 100 messages come to the screen of my phone. I don't know how. I don't know. I thought notifications were turned off, but like YouTube and iPhone, they're like, hey, are you sure you want to turn them off? So like I still get like fed up comment every now and again.
Right. Well, I think your videos are usually positioned pretty well for what YouTube wants now, because YouTube really isn't that interested in search. They're really interested in just kind of showing you things that are interesting to see. I think that one of you had a recent video where, and I thought this was just so much fun, was you made the long hammer, because this thing does not need to exist in the real world, and yet you made it. I mean, I was like, this is so cool. This is like prime DiResta right here. I don't know how did that video do very well, or was it just kind of
it kind of bumped along. I think, I think it hit 200 and change, which for me is big. That's a funny video.
It's getting harder and harder to get views, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Let's see. 178,000, which for me is...
That's respectable.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's, it's no Alex Steele numbers, but, I'm not...
Everything in YouTube kind of comes in waves. You never really know. I saw you experimented briefly with the shorts. Are you going to go back to that, or are you done with that?
Dude, you know what? I had no idea how shorts work. I thought it went to its own category and stayed in like a section that you had to find. So
ideally that would be it. Yeah.
That day I'm like, I keep getting messages from my agent, says try shorts. Shorts is the next big thing. Yeah. My agent sends out these blanket emails to all his YouTube clients, and so I was like, and I was playing with my new hearse, and I'm like, man, I want to do Instagram stories, but I'm like, I thought shorts was Instagram. So I did 5 in a row. I didn't realize it went right into the regular feed until like an hour later. Everyone's complaining. What are they complaining about? Just don't watch it if you don't like it.
That was it. You posted them all at the same time.
Why didn't you do a real video? What is this? I can't believe they're making you do this. I'm like, I thought it went into its own subcategory. I thought each one would get 10 views over the next year because somebody would be severely interested to find what Jimmy DiResta's shorts look like. I didn't realize they went right in the straight feed, so I'm an idiot.
You going to do any more, or are you just done with that?
The next one I do is when like the Empire State Building is on fire because it got hit by an airplane. But that's it.
I love doing shorts. I think it's like the coolest thing. It's such a new challenge. I just love the challenge of having to work within certain restriction. They're like, okay, it has to be vertical, it has to be under 60 seconds, and it has to somehow engage people. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I'll try to write a script in 150 words or less. And so I think that anytime they bring on those types of restrictions to something new, I'm like, how can I possibly use that? But you're right. You have to kind of walk a line there about, okay, how much flack are you willing to take? Yeah. But a lot of that has died down now that kind of people are getting more and more used to it.
Well, I recently did a podcast with Jeff Fader, the Full Blast podcast, and we talked about change. And, we change. You and I started doing this when we were in our 40s,
Right. I think we're the same age, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm 50,
Are you 55?
I'll be 55 in April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, we've been at this for so long, it's like, so many things have changed. You've reinvented yourself incredibly
every year.
Yeah, and you got to keep doing it. And we talked about it with Jeff, and so the point I'm making is like the audience bends slowly. It's like it's like they say turning a battleship doesn't happen overnight. So I will probably do shorts like if something's super cool, like if I'm in like some interesting factory and I see some cool thing that's just like a 60-second story. I'll probably do that, but I haven't really had that much of an opportunity to utilize it. But I will for sure. It's just a matter of time, And then like I said, we change. We go in and out of fads and things that are interesting for us and for the audience.
Yeah, everything on YouTube is all about just kind of constantly staying on top of things. I wish there was a way of really understanding who the followers of my channel are compared to the subscribers, because I don't think subscribers is really a relevant number anymore. It used to be more of a thing, but now it's not. But there are followers, I know, because I see them in the comments, same people over and over.
Yeah.
I was like, I wish I knew exactly who those people were and kind of weed out the people who just simply push subscribe button.
Well, it's funny because my mother-in-law, my girlfriend, we've been together for years, so we're basically married. But Taylor's mother, we just visited her in Chicago on the ride back, and she's like, why don't you do the vlogs anymore? I was like, I will. They're not totally done. I didn't make any big declaration. I was like, I work so hard on them. They take me like literally days and days and days to put them together. And nobody watches them except for the loyal people. She's like, but you have 2 million followers. I go, that doesn't mean anything. She doesn't understand. Like, so the average person sees like, oh, you got, close to 2 million followers. Why don't they watch? I go, I don't know. I go, every video I put out, I get literally like 5% of my subscriber base watches it. That's just the way it is. I don't know. I mean, I don't watch everybody I'm subscribed to. I hardly watch anybody I'm subscribed to. I'm always looking for new stuff or, how to build a trailer. And that's not somebody I'm subscribed to, but I'll go watch how to replace a rocker panel in an old Chevy, which I watched a couple of guys. A couple of the guys I click subscribe because I'm like, oh, wow, they good out good content. Thank you. I hit subscribe. It's like my way of saying thank you to them, in a tiny little way. And, they don't know who the hell I am. But, and then again, how many times every day you get subscribers? You don't go and see who they are.
No. And I think you hit it. I think for most people now, the subscription button is just really a like button. It's just somebody saying, I like what your content. I'm probably not going to watch it, but I like what you're doing here. Yeah. I approve. And so it's become just such a game. Do you make your videos with that in mind about how well it might perform, or is that always a consideration, or is it just mainly you're just interested in making a project? While
I was away this time, I kept some notes. I'm trying to think to myself, what would be a video that could potentially be viral? And I don't really know what that is. Like people say, I don't know how someone like Mr. Beast or, these other guys that do these kind of more fashion oriented channels, more like literal social media, not maker channels. I don't know how these guys get such big numbers. I just do what I find interesting, and I just really just want to share knowledge. So if I find it interesting to, weld two hammers together, let me weld two hammers together. I expected to get a little bit more hate instead of, I try to make it comical, and I left some of the silliness in the very end. And, it was, I think I made that video literally like 2 days after my assistant passed away. So it was like a little bit of a break for me just being silly, so in the end I was just being silly with the hammer. And so it was like a little bit of a release for me to be silly there. And a lot of people appreciated me just being silly and showing all the mistakes of me not being able to drive the nail in properly and be stupid. But yeah, I have no idea what's going to go viral. I thought that gun video I thought that video was going to get shadow banned and nobody would see it because, guns are bad. And it's my number one video. And I keep constantly checking to see if it's still monetized, and it is. Any minute, someone's going to complain that, those guns kill people in the West, and, those guns are bad. And then someone's going to, let's demonetize that gun.
Well, my most popular video, that nail through the wood thing is, and that was years ago. It was probably close to 10 years ago or even longer that I made that thing. And I used a song in it. It's an old Pete Seeger song. I just thought it was a funny song to go along with it. And that was back early YouTube, but everybody was just downloading music and putting it on their videos. It's like, oh, hell, I don't care. Who knows what? No, there wasn't any kind of... And I've never gotten a copyright claim on that. Wow. So I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, maybe because it's just kind of an obscure song or something, but it's so weird. I've never... And so... I mean, because it's like that's like the video that just keeps on paying every month. I just keep getting, it's like royalties basically for this dumb video I made all those years ago.
Yeah. I'm doing really well. I commented on Matthias's video a couple days ago. He said that he's going to be working with a company called Jelly Smack.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
We are.
Have you gotten any checks yet?
Not yet. They just now started posting those videos on Facebook. Yeah, I know, because he mentioned it. It's just so funny how all this stuff comes around, because he mentioned it first. I was talking to him. He's like, yeah, I do this thing, Jelly Smack. I'm like, wow, I can't imagine you doing anything with Facebook. And he's like, yes, this is why I'm doing it. And he said it was because he heard that you were doing it. And I'm like, well, because usually those kind of things, I get them. And I'm like, oh, man, this just smells of like a scam or something. But then I heard, well, if Matthias is doing it and you're doing it,
Bob's
yeah, okay,
doing
I'm
it too.
on board. Yeah, so I'm totally on board. And
I
so,
tell you what, it's the most money I've ever made in social media.
it's crazy.
It's great.
And all they do is they take your old videos and they just chop them down into short videos and post them on Facebook, which is perfect for me, because I never even look at Facebook. You know,
they're horrible edits. I look at them and I'm just like, I did
too. I just approve it. I'm like, oh God, those look awful, but whatever.
These guys know the audience on Facebook, and it's really funny because it's like a social media network on Mars. Like, these people that are watching this have no idea who I am at all.
Right. Oh yeah.
And that's fine, because it's new viewers. But I get emails every day, and they go to my Facebook email, so I hardly see them. But every once in a while, if I'm like trying to buy something on Facebook Market, I see all these other emails that came in, and it's like, hey, are you selling that treasure chest? This thing I made 8 years ago, which is like long gone. I don't know where it is. It's like
somebody's aunt or something from Nebraska has run across. Somebody sent it to her on her Facebook feed.
Yeah. Are you going to sell that long hammer? Can I buy that long hammer? Can you make me one?
Yeah, right. I can always tell the people who have never seen my video, and this is in the shorts. I see this a lot, because the comment always starts out with "this guy." This guy doesn't know what he's doing. This guy has never made a video before. Oh, wow, I'm in my 13th year of this. It's my new name, this guy.
That's so funny. I never heard of the term SEO until you messaged me. Did I tell you this last time we talked?
No.
You said to me, I made the video where I made a hammer with like a belt clip on it, where it hangs on your belt clip so it hangs down. Yeah. And everyone's like, oh my God, your fingers are going to get blisters. This is such a ridiculous idea. And so I made the video where I hammered out my name with nails. I made it super fast. And I just literally, and people didn't know whether to be mad at the fact that like I didn't build something, or that I hammered on top of my table saw table. They're like,
oh, right.
You're going to knock your table saw out of square. And so I hammered the name DiResta very fast with nails. And I had still sitting in the rafters of that same room. And you mentioned to me something to the effect of like, it's cool to have fun with videos like this, but watch your SEO. And I didn't know exactly what the hell SEO meant. And I don't even know. I had to ask him, like, what does SEO mean? Oh, search engine optimization. And I still hardly even know what that means. I don't even know what the hell that means. But you said something to the effect of like, be careful, you're going to throw off your SEO if you do videos somehow, some way. And I forget what your point was, but
now that point makes no sense at all, because everything that was true back then is not true now. It's all upside down. Everything is different. Yeah. YouTube is a totally different landscape than it was even 5 years ago. I think I often like to cite like 2015 was kind of peak YouTube. That was really
16 was like the year I did really well. I mean, that was the year like it seemed like I was going to be like a rock star for 10 years. But
I think what it is about you. I think a lot of guys have a man crush on you.
They do.
Are you well aware of like the image you project, and you're like, oh, well, I gotta make sure that the guys like me?
Well, I see guys that I have man crushes on, and I just emulate them. But these are guys that aren't necessarily social media guys, and so I'm filtering all the guys that inspire me to everybody else. So it's like I'm a terminal, but I'm just sucking in from the guys above me and passing it down. Yeah. Why not have 8 pickup trucks? Who gives a shit? What difference does it make? I can have 8 pickup trucks. Fuck you. I can have 8 pickup trucks. And so then, like, fans write to me. They're like, dude, if you didn't buy 8 pickup trucks, I wouldn't have bought my second pickup truck, which I love. I'm looking for another one now,
Guys look like you now, too, I think. Guys are just adopting the DiResta look.
I was at a wedding. I was at Chris Zappieri's wedding this weekend. Chris from Make Everything. And we all always wear a hat because we're all half bald. And I didn't everyone's like, are you going to take your hat off at the wedding? And then that was while the ceremony was getting set up. And I was just like, well, it's sunny out. I'll leave it on for the minute. And then all of a sudden the wedding's 3 hours old and I never took my hat off. And it's like, I can't believe you didn't take your hat off. I'm like, gives a shit. No one cares if I had my hat on or not.
See, I stopped wearing a hat in my videos because everybody was just assuming I was bald. And I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm bald.
You got great hair. I am bald, so that's all.
I work on my hair, man. I work on this. Like every 4 weeks, I'm getting this shit colored.
No. Well, that's the funny thing now. Like I'm getting like I got like a really short cut the other day, and I look like Paulie Walnuts now. You know, like over my ears is going gray. But what are you gonna do? I just got to make video for 50-year-olds now instead of videos for 25-year-olds.
50-year-olds with man crushes. Which is more important to you? Which do you enjoy better? Making the whole video process, the whole YouTube process, or actually making the projects that you make?
You know, I really enjoy building the projects and like solving the problem. Like it's almost like in a very different way. I like the idea of starting a project with no roadmap and then figuring it out along the way. That's always really fun. And then I really enjoy the edit too, where you like throw a bunch of shit together and you're like, how is this edit going to work? I know when I shot it, it didn't feel right, but let me just put it in, see what I could do. And then I start to find the edit, and it starts to take on a rhythm. And I don't necessarily say a story. A lot of guys like to say a story. I like a video that has a good rhythm. You know, it's like boom, boom, boom. Like when I watch and I click on a video and someone's talking and they're talking for like 8 seconds too long, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. And I just check out. But a lot of people say, I just watched 35 minutes of you building a canoe, and I didn't even realize 35 minutes went by. You know, so when I find that rhythm in a build, and I'm not saying I hit it every time, you know, I have a few clankers here and there, but when I find that rhythm, that's exciting to me. It's like I've solved that puzzle. So even every individual edit, when I start to find the rhythm, and then I'll make a decision. 90% of the time, I just leave it as is, and then I save the voiceover for Patreon so I can make a couple extra dollars there. But when I did this travel trailer, I had to keep it honest. I couldn't like present it as if I knew exactly what I was doing. So I felt like I needed to put that video out with the voiceover to explain what I was doing. And a lot of people are like, wow, you should do this more often. I'm like, I do it about once every 8 or 9 videos. I'll do a voiceover. And then I'm like, wow, you should. I'm like, you can go to my Patreon for $1 a month and you could hear every video I ever did with a voiceover, you know.
And yeah, I mentioned that in the intro that you kind of popularized that high-speed GoPro kind of look to videos. And I know there were people doing that before you were doing it, you know, on TV even, but it was only on certain parts of a show, like a HGTV show or something, kind of speeding through it. But I really do think that you were the first one who really just totally embraced that. And just the idea of putting all of that together without a voiceover, I think was really smart, especially at the time when this was going all over the world in different countries. You didn't have to worry about people not. Did you know right away that this was that really a conscious effort? It's like, yes, this is the style I want.
It kind of happened organically. So we did the TV show Dirty Money on on Discovery. Me and my brother did the show, and the show like just faded away. No one tells you the show's over. You know, it just fades away. They just stopped answering your emails. Can you hear me? Oh,
I can hear you fine.
You muted a minute there, yeah. So the show faded away. I was frustrated. My girlfriend's like, why don't you just do YouTube? You know, you spend so much time on these little videos, these presentation videos, just do once a month and put it on YouTube. And I'm like, so I started researching YouTube. Of course, I found you. I was already kind of watching Matthias, but I found you. I found Chucky 2009, who's gone now. I found Jody the welder. And so I started seeing you guys like who have paved the way for like the maker movement, which wasn't even called that at the time. And I was like, you know, I could do this. I could make a video once every couple of weeks. But I had to uncouple myself from the TV idea of making a movie where it like you had to explain everything and you had to have a great voiceover and you had to have good music and you had to. And so I put out a video early on with like with a Beastie Boys beat in it. I'm like, this is great to watch this being built with a great Beastie Boys track. Got flagged in 3 seconds. And so I put it out. I put it out again without the Beastie Boys track, with just the sound. I built this like cube it was like a cube for the lobby of a building, but it was only for temporary like presentation. Anyway, it was a stupid, weird thing. And so I knew since I was going to make a lot of videos, I couldn't get wrapped up in doing a voiceover every time. I couldn't get wrapped up in trying to find copyright-free music all the time. And I was like, you know what? Let me make my videos like potato chips. I'll make them fast and just do a lot of them. You know, I've always been inspired by people like Warhol, who's done so much, this huge body of work. And, you know, these artists that just have huge bodies of work. And you're like, how did they physically have the time to make all of these objects? And so I'm always inspired. Like if I have a clanker of a video, I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's really, it's just another brick in the wall. It doesn't define me. If I have a clanker or a crappy video, that video doesn't define me. That's just the moment. That's how I was feeling at that time. That's a painting that's not going to get $1 million in 10 years from when I'm dead. It's another step in my evolution. Like I did it. I really did it. People don't think it's great. That's fine. But it really was my truth at that moment, And so I just need to make a lot of videos. And the way to do it is, I personally don't like hearing anybody do a voiceover. I personally don't like a big build-up or like a 10-second intro. Like those 10-second intros in our scale of time in this current moment of our existence as humans, 10 seconds is like a minute and a half in the 70s.
See, I can't imagine you just starting out a video with, "Hey guys."
No, I go right into it. Like it's just like smash cut. Yes. This is the tool that's going to get modified, or this is the material is going to turn into something. Just stay with it. And that's because of my own personal attention span. And a lot of it stems from when I was starting to popularize. When I was trying to get interested with YouTube videos. I'm laying in bed with my girlfriend at night, and I pull up a Matthias video, and he starts talking, and nothing. I love Matthias. He's our god, and the sound is off, and I'm just scrubbing through until he's doing something. If it's a talking head, I can scrub past it until he's doing something because I'm laying in bed, headphones, YouTube. Bluetooth wasn't popular 10 years ago. You're laying in bed with somebody, you're watching on your computer, you're not even on your iPhone, and you can't have the sound up because you're gonna wake up your girlfriend. Just say, turn that shit off and go to bed. And so I would always have the sound off. And I was like, what difference does it make if I'm making sounds with tools or if it's silence? So the sounds of the tools sounded funny. They sound like chipmunks. I leave them in. No copyright, no voiceover. And then when Patreon came around, I was like, I could do Patreon and do the director cut where I do the voiceover. And that's how I started doing that.
Do you enjoy doing the voiceovers at all? Because I know on your trailer video, you were doing a voiceover. You said you were doing it from a Jeep or something.
We were in Wyoming. We were in a park.
So do you just watch your video and just simply record, here's what I'm doing at the time? And why the voiceover on that video?
Because like I said, I didn't want people to think like I was like, I wanted people to understand, I don't know what I'm doing on this video. I don't necessarily, obviously I know how to weld, I know how to construct, but I'm trying to harangue all those disciplines and form a travel trail. I'm trying to make the best decisions. That I don't want to overload it with steel. That's why I have wood. I glued the wood. People are going to say epoxy is not strong enough. I'm like, well, I epoxied it temporarily so that I could screw it later, so I could keep moving through the build, and so I just wanted to explain my thought process for the average person that wants to maybe do that, but realizes, hey, everyone thinks I'm some rock star that knows how to do everything. I really don't know how to do everything. I'm just this reassociating what I'm good at, what I proved to be okay at over here, I could potentially be okay at over here. And I just and that's another reason a lot of people find my videos interesting is because I'm not, I never really liked the idea of how to make a. I'm like, hey, this is what I did. You could do what you want. Maybe there's an idea in here that can get you started.
The interesting thing about that video is that's a long form video. That's almost a half hour long, and you've already got 500,000 views on that thing.
Yeah, I wish I knew how to fucking predict this shit.
Do you think you may do that in some more of those longer format videos?
Well, it's funny because I put the canoe video out a few years ago, and I expected it to just stall at 100,000. It's 6 or 7 million, and people are like, it's a great 35 minutes I just spent doing that, and it didn't feel like 35 minutes, and that video was like 45 minutes long, the trailer video. And then I just kept cutting it and cutting it. I was sitting in the driver's seat, passenger seat, while Taylor was driving our rig going around the mountains. And I just kept like, okay, that's too long. That's too long. Oh, that's too long. What happens is I'll make a video and then I watch it and I have this impulse so let's say I'll output the video and I just keep my finger on the space bar. And when I have that natural impulse to hit the space bar to stop the video, that's where the edit should be. If that's the 25-second thing, I'll either hit the space bar and stop it and go, okay, can this segment still live if I cut it right here? Yep, there's enough information. Whatever's after that is superfluous. Or if whatever's after that is important, I keep that cut point and I jam it all inside that. So if it's something that was like 25 seconds and I hit the space bar at 10, I decide, is the 15 seconds needed? If it's needed, I jam the whole clip into a 10-second sped up second thing.
Yeah, see, this is the problem I had and why I still edit my own videos is I have a hard time conveying that information to somebody else. And that I find that I'll like cut like 5 frames off of a shot just because it just seems like that's where the cut should be. Yeah. And now I watch other people's videos and I get to those points where, yes, I was like, oh, just stop talking right there. You don't need to explain anymore. Just, yeah.
Plus, you do a lot of comedy, which is if you're a comedian, which I consider you a comedian, you have to edit your own comedy unless you're with a comedy producer. And we don't have producers on YouTube, but if you are a comedian, you have to edit your own shit because someone's not going to understand the timing of a joke. You could throw in a joke, or you can make a shitty joke better with good timing edit, or you can make a really good joke shitty with bad timing edit.
You know what I'm doing right now? I just shot this. This is going to be another short. I'm like just borderline whether I actually want to post it or not. And it's, this whole thing going around right now about the end grain glue ups. There's like this guy who had this end grain myths thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing nobody didn't already know, but people are really misconstruing this. So I'm just kind of like trolling the whole thing. So I'm doing a video on the myth that, measure twice, cut once. That if you actually measure once, it's just the same as measuring twice. So I don't know if people are going to get it or not, but I'll put it out there.
That's really funny. That's funny. Yeah, so that's why people are always like, how come you don't hire an editor? I'm like, because I don't want somebody sitting around for 80% of the time while I'm thinking. If it was like an Alex Steele thing where like every single day you're putting out content and you have like, he's got a great rhythm. I was at his spot in England before he moved to Montana, and he has a rhythm. He's got some like little surfer dude over there, just takes footage and just keeps putting it together really dynamically, beautifully. Not to say I wish I wish I had somebody that could do that, but that's not my rhythm. I also like working alone a lot of the time. I don't want anybody being like, do you have some footage to give me? Like, I can't stand that. I just like to be alone.
Yeah, sometimes I discover things in the footage that I shot that I wasn't even expecting to include. And I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good, interesting thing. And there's no way another editor would know that. I'm too wrapped up in myself.
Well, when I had somebody helping me for a minute, Brett was my older assistant. Brett, he did a couple of edits for me. And he knew my style and he didn't want to trample on it. So he would just say, look, I give you 40% more material than you probably need. But he created the sequence and like he knew how to put a sequence together and what close-ups I needed, what wides, what mediums, or whatever. And so he put it together and then I would just take out what I didn't want. He would always give me more than he knew I needed. So, whereas like if you do an edit and then you don't have the source material in it, it's hard to pull back in. So he would make sure he would leave stuff. But that only happened a couple times. For the most part, I pretty much edited every single thing I've ever done. Like
I think one of the most
for like 10 videos.
One of the most interesting things to me about your business is your personal branding on that. Holy crap! You are probably the most well-branded maker on YouTube, definitely. That DiResta stand. I realized this a number of years ago. We were at some event and I was auctioning off stuff. We were doing a raffle.
Oh yeah, that was Kansas City in 2015.
Is that when it was? And so we raffled off. You had an old glue bottle. You're like, yeah, let's raffle this off. It's a DiResta glue bottle. So I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Yeah. Somebody wants an old DiResta glue bottle. But now, you've got DiResta stamped on everything.
Yes. And, it was just an experiment and like, it's never going to work, but who gives a fuck? At least my name will be on everything. That's really where it came from.
It's out there.
It really started because, I just told the story somewhere, but when Instagram very first started, it was Instagram and Pinterest. And everything that was on Instagram was getting farmed over to Pinterest with no attribution. So, and I was posting pictures on Instagram of my work that I was proud of. We had just done that TV show, so I was posting some of the net results of the TV show. We made a guitar, we made a cool bicycle, so I was posting pictures of that stuff. And then I knew it in my gut that they were just going to instantly end up on Pinterest with no credit. So I started just spray painting DiResta in the corner of every image. So if I'm framing that image, make sure wherever there's a white clean spot that could draw your eye, just spray paint my logo on it. It takes a real scumbag to go out and like Photoshop it out, but if he really needs to do that, he could do that. But for the most part, my logo stayed in all these pictures that I just put out there. You know, it's like you birth each one of these things and you let it go, and you want people to know that it came from you. So
you're putting a watermark on everything.
That's it. And then when the YouTube started, and you had break.com and a couple of these channels that were trying to do what YouTube was doing, they would just basically farm all their material right off of YouTube, and all of our content was just pirated over to there. And by I think that the channel, they made all these fake channels. That these websites made up all these fake channels because they needed, and they were just biting all of our content and putting it over there. And so I was like, you know what? This is just going to be part of the business, that my content's just going to get reposted everywhere. I just want to make sure that people know where it came from. And that's really why my name is on everything. And, you know, if you put a watermark in the corner, they can crop it smaller and get rid of it like the old MTV would do. Like, what if my name is on the back of my glove, on the side of my hammer, on the side of my table saw, or I start a shot and the saw blade has my name on it?
Can't crop it out.
You can't crop all that stuff out. And that's really where it gets. And that's the other thing is, I never really, early on, I never really showed my face. You only ever saw what I was doing. And so anybody could take my videos and say it's theirs. They still do, even when I'm in it. Like I said, somebody will send me a video from Facebook and it's me talking with Arabic writing all around me. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell they think I'm saying. I don't know.
Hey, how are the podcasts doing? Are you still doing the heavy machinery podcast? What was that called?
The Fits All podcast. Yeah, those guys, we just cannot get it together. We do one about every 2 months. And Eric has 3 young children, and Andrew's got 2 young children. Eric has an infant, and his kids are like 1 year apart. And Andrew's got 2 like 8 and 10-year-old children, and we're all so busy. You know, we all have other things to do, but occasionally we get together and we talk for about 2.5 hours. And so it's not gone. It's just, we just can't develop a schedule. But Bob and Dave, we meet once every Wednesday morning. We're still going.
God, you guys have been doing that show. It's Making It is the podcast. You guys have been doing that for, 6, 7 years now? Even longer, maybe?
Yeah, I think we started Halloween of 15.
Wow.
When we started. Yeah, we started like the day before Halloween of 2015. I'm pretty sure that's the date. So we're going on 6 years now. And we're at like episode 300 and something. You know, when you listen to like...
It's an amazing run.
You listen to some of these... Well, like, Spagnola and those guys, they're into like 800-900 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of the... God, he started that podcast in 2008.
Yeah, like who knew what the hell a podcast was then? Who was listening?
Well, yeah, you actually had to listen to it on an iPod. Remember that? You'd have to download the thing. And they still call them downloads, even though you listen on Spotify or whatever. But you would actually have to download it. And I remember downloading podcasts from my desktop. And then you'd have to like physically plug in your iPod to it and download it on. It was a real...
It's so funny. Every time me, Bob, and Dave get together, it's like, we always have like this like little standoff every week. It's like, okay. Oh, all right. We're gonna. Okay, all right. Cool. I'll see you in a few minutes. It's always like, are we meeting today? We're gonna. Okay. All right. Cool.
Do you guys always have a topic for the show going into it, or do you just kind of go in blindly? And just
About one out of every 3 episodes, we have like a direction. Lately, we just start talking and we find it. And I think we're all just so busy that we don't really take the time. And occasionally we ask the audience, and we get a lot of repetitive, redundant things like, talk about the first 3 tools you need to open a shop, or, talk about, where you get your ideas from. So occasionally we find more like philosophical, deep conversations. Lately we've all been working on cars, and so we're talking about car repairs. And, a lot of it is... if you ask me to say what is the main goal? The main goal is to inspire people to just pick up tools, especially if you're either insecure about it or you've never done it at all. And so, we all talk about the first time we're getting into one thing or another, or, just doing something fearlessly, whatever it is. Bob just, he's ripping apart a Carmen Ghia. And I look at what he's doing and I get nervous. I'm like, he's taking out the steering wheel. What is he taking out the steering wheel for? Does he know what he's doing? Because I wouldn't know what I was doing, what I watched.
Well, that's what scares me the most. We had Robert Dunn on my other podcast. He has a channel called Aging Wheels, and he has all these obscure cars that he likes to take apart and reassemble and fix. And he took apart like the dashboard of this car and all these pieces there, and I'm like, oh crap, no way. I would never get that back together. I'd be left with all these different screws and everything. Working on cars just it intimidates me.
I'm finding aging wheels right now. I just subscribed.
Oh, he's awesome. He's awesome. Yeah.
Well, I'm about to do a dashboard on my 77 Chevy stepside, and I figured I was going to change the windshield. I'm like, well, I'm changing the windshield. It'd probably be easier to change the dashboard when the windshield's out of place. So I'm going to do all that in an upcoming video. And the first windshield came broken, so they have to resend me a new one.
Do you have much experience as a mechanic?
No, I've always... Everything I've ever done, and I don't want to sound like I grew up like a poor child in the South, but everything I've ever done has been because I haven't had the money. Like, I changed my own brakes when I was in high school because it's cheaper to just go buy the parts and do it yourself and then take it for a test ride and like, okay, it's stopping. Okay, that worked. All right, I guess I know what I'm doing. Or bleeding brakes for the first time because I talked to 4 friends and they're like, this is what you do. And so I go home and I do it myself. But I just also developed the ability to just keep challenging myself. So when it comes to doing mechanics, I have to keep reminding myself it's just nuts and bolts. You just have to keep track of it. But that intuitive, like you meet these guys, these gearheads that could like hear an engine and go, no, the timing's off. Or they're like, oh, you're missing, it's misfiring on the 5th spark plug. Like I've never had that intuitive. Like I can with like wood and metal, like fabrication. Like I could see somebody working and go, yeah, you're doing that out of order. And they're like, I'm fine. And then 10 minutes later, like, oh, you're right. I was doing it out of order. But when I meet guys and other people at meetups that have that ability, like that innate ability to like reach under and like adjust the carburetor, and then all of a sudden your car runs better. I never had that. So that's always been my frustrating. I can take apart stuff and put it back together, take it apart, change the rings and put it back together, or do it like doing major surgery on an engine intimidates me. I would rather leave it to somebody who's better at it than me. Like this car I'm working on needs a new transmission, and someone's like, "You should do it yourself." I'm like, "There's no way in hell I'm going to get under there and take the transmission out. I'll bring it to somebody, let him do it."
So are you going to be featuring a lot more of this on your channel?
Honestly, this restoration I started doing without any video, with no YouTube at all, and I've always kind of dabbled a little bit in car stuff, and car stuff is really becoming super popular on YouTube. Coincidentally, at the same time, my personal interest and my personal finances allow me to be able to buy a $3,000 truck to dilly-dally with, without feeling guilty about spending $3,000 on a truck I don't necessarily need. I'm really just buying it for fashion and experimentation. So I'm not going to really just focus on doing car videos because they also take a long time. I see these like my YouTube car hero is Derek Bieri from Vice Grip Garage. He puts out a video every week of him going and getting a car 400 miles away, fixing it up, pulling it out of the weeds, putting new tires. Like everything is like a 2-week adventure. But I know his videos don't come out sequentially. Like some of these adventures.
They can't. Yeah, you have to have multiple projects you're working on because you may have to order parts and then you may have to wait a couple of weeks for something.
I'm like, it's unbelievable. There must be 4 of him to be able to put out as much content as he's putting out. Because every piece of content is him taking a road trip for 4 days. It's like, I don't understand how he does it.
Well, Jimmy, I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of the show. I've had a lot of requests for you to be on the show.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And, thank you. You inspired me from the beginning, honestly. And the one thing you inspired me the most about, which is something I never do, is specialize. You specialize in one thing and you make it work for you and you just stick. You stay on that specialization.
Stay in my lane. If anything, I've gotten even more, drilled down more of what it is. It's just all about it beginning woodworking. I'm staying there. I'm going to do my thing. But where it's fun is just to change up the content itself. Yeah. And keep adjusting that. Yeah. And
the comedy. I remember feeling like, wow, there's a real YouTube family here when you and Matthias would kind of rip each other a little bit. It was kind of before I was like in the family and I was like, oh, that's cool. And occasionally Matthias ribs me, that son of a bitch.
People for a long time thought that Matthias and I had this like huge feud, and so then it became a thing where we were like talking. We're like, yeah, we should really make this a thing. This is pretty funny. I think I told you about this. I really miss him and John Heiss getting together and complaining like the 2 Muppets in the balcony. Oh man! But I want to have John Heiss on this show, and I asked him, but he doesn't have a webcam. He's probably watching this right now, going, "I got one, damn it!" John, if you do, contact me. But
make a webcam out of plywood.
Right.
Just everything else will
I
follow.
can have you on my show. Anyways, it was great talking to you, and
Yeah, bud, thank you.
we'll have to do this again sometime. And if you're watching this show on YouTube, I want to remind you that, of course, I also have the podcast version, which is I almost said podcast version. I have
Version in a podcast.
I want to remind you that there's also a podcast version available on Spotify and everywhere else. And be sure to check out Jimmy's videos over on YouTube. Just look for DiResta. You'll see it plastered all over the place.
Yes, sir.
And leave him a comment on one of his videos and let him know that you heard his discussion on the Woodworking Talk Show.
Thank
I'm sure
you.
he'll be thrilled about that. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you, guys.